Good morning, Evan.
Hey, good morning, Paul. We'll get together on our last cold morning well, no, that'll be tomorrow maybe.
Yeah, I hope.
One of our last cold mornings of the year.
If it continues to stay cold, I'm just blaming Tanner.
Good plan. I like it.
Come on.
Hey, we're doing a little bit of a unique show this morning.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. We got everything ready to go.
Yeah, I am too. This morning we thought it might be fitting to do a tribute to Dick Belcher. This was his baby that we all inherited together, the first photo radio program. And had a great service for Dick this week, very inspiring. Lots of great stories about his life and growing up on the farm during the Great Depression. Just really, really touching. So we thought it'd be neat this morning to hear Dick in his own words. And he did a presentation to a Kiwanis Club a couple of years ago, and then an interview with Tom Baer a few years ago that we've got on our website. And Tanner's done a great job putting together. I think there's another presentation that he did. So he described some of his upbringing and influences in his life. And I think we thought it might be special this morning to play that for our audience and hear about what was important to Dick and what made him the man that he was in his own words.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's a great way to honor a great man.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for allowing us to have the honor to do this, and we'll get right into it if you guys are ready.
That sounds great, Paul. Thanks.
I'm going to go back and just give you a little bit of background of our family. My father at eighth grade dropped out of school. He was he and my grandparents lived in southern Indiana and my grandfather worked in a coal mine. And so it wasn't uncommon at that time you just went to the eighth grade and went to do something. So my dad went to Gary to work in the steel mills, and of course then the Depression came along in the early 30s, and my parents got married. Either one of them had a job, but my mother had an aunt and uncle that farmed out by Kiwanis. They invited them out to spend the winter with them, and there was no welfare at that time. There was no type of assistance. It just had to be family. So that was the best offer they had, and so that's what they did. And for helping take care of the animals and the usual winter work around the farm while they got room and board. The farm across the road went up for rent, and my Uncle Jess said to my dad, if you help me farm out this year, we'll rent it. So my mom and dad had no other place to go. So that's how my parents got to be farmers. That's not my dad. That was the day I was born. He always talked about it, that he was plowing with horses, and my mother interrupted him that I was to be born. Born in a farmhouse, which is still standing. I have a bill someplace where the doctor charged $25, and at that time it was not unusual that they didn't get paid, so Dad gave him a chicken and a ham or something, and that's what happened. So this was the height of the Depression. And I look back at those days as really formative days for me, a young lad around on the farm where there was always lots and lots of things to do. And so my dad bought one of the first tractors in the community, and they thought this young whippersnapper, he didn't know what he was doing, and bought a John Deere, and the rest is history on implements. We did away with the horses and go to farm equipment. And now, Jack, is Pepper in there? You're not in this picture. You didn't make that scene. Okay, that skinny number 5 is just me. Our coach was Harry Ray. I've got several people in my background that I felt had really made an impression on me. First of all, my parents. Second was Harry Ray. He coached this team, and he was also a teacher in the high school. And when we were seniors, he grabbed me in the hall, and that was back when you could be grabbed. And he says, Belcher, what are you going to do when you graduate? And I said, well, creating war zone, probably just enlist in the Army. No, you're going to Purdue University. Oh, I am. And I see you need certain courses you haven't had. I've arranged to switch you into those. You know, okay, geez. And before I knew it, I switched to his chemistry class, and he assigned what turned out to be the smartest kid in the class as my associate assistant. And so we went through chemistry, he got me a scholarship at Purdue, and had it not been for Harry Ray, I probably would have never gone to Purdue. One of the accomplishments at Purdue was I was senior manager of a basketball team, or the football team, and involved in a lot of different things there. Now I mentioned to you about important people in my life. One of them on that list is Bob Peterson, who sits right there. Bob, you graduated from Purdue 4 years ahead of me. Can you hear me, Bob? I don't want you to miss this because I don't want to repeat it. It was after my senior year in high school and I graduated, this young man came out to my house one afternoon or one evening and he introduced himself. I'm Bob Peterson. I understand you're going to Purdue University. I said, yes. And he said, well, where are you going to live down there? And I said, well, I'm not sure. He says, I got a fraternity that I'd like for you to take a look at. So from that contact, I joined the Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity and have had lifetime, very, very pleasant experiences with those gentlemen up until currently. And thank you, Bob, for getting me squared away there. Graduation day at Purdue University, that's when you got your diploma and your commission in the Army at the same day. So that's my mom and dad and my little brother, who's 10 years younger, and now he's 4 inches taller than me. After you serve your time at Purdue and ROTC, then you had a commitment. And mine was in artillery, as was Bob's. We went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I volunteered for the airborne in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and along the line of these very important people, I must mention my wife Suzanne. She was 1 year behind me at Purdue, and we were engaged. I'll tell you where the money came from the engagement ring. I had a friend at the fraternity house that worked for Xerox. Now he's a stockbroker, and Xerox had just come out. What's Xerox? What's that? It's a machine that makes pictures and copies. And you got to remember this was 65 years ago. And so I bought some of the stock. And later on, when I was talking to Suzanne about getting married, well, she kind of expected a ring, so I sold the stock. So I told her, I said, now, if you can get a job in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, teaching, we'll get married. So I go to the superintendent of schools in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I said, my fiance is graduating in speech and hearing therapy. Do you need a teacher? Yes. All was silence. Okay, I was waiting for him to say something. Well, would you like to talk to her? No, just have her here on August the 15th. So that was the extent of the interview. So I'll give you an idea of the supply and demand of teachers at that time. After I came back out of the service, I worked for Holderman Fire Management Service for a while. I was in school with Bob Holderman. Howard Haldeman and his dad, and that company is still around. We had Howard Haldeman Jr. here a couple of years ago to talk about that big operation. So I worked for them. I managed up to 50 farms for them. And at that time, Howard Haldeman was organizing the Francis Slocum Bank in Wabash, which I kind of found very interesting that, where do banks come from? How do they have the, all the banks I knew were established in 1800s. And so I kind of followed that and found it very interesting. And that was part of the inspiration to start First Federal here.
Let's start a little bit with the history of First Federal. Of course, we know it was founded in 1966. Where did you come up with the game plan for First Federal Savings Bank?
Oh, first of all, I didn't have a plan. Well, actually, I had a college roommate who was very much of an entrepreneur guy, and we had only two very sleepy banks that were in Rochester at that time. And so he encouraged me. He says, "You need to start a bank there. You need to start a bank there." And so I finally listened to him, and so we got it going. Joe Hassler, he's still on our board. He lives over in Illinois, and it's been a great inspiration and great guidance to me for the past 51 years.
So did you study banking at Purdue University?
I said agriculture economics. I had no idea what I was going to do after I got out, like most students. So went to the military after that, and then came back here and started the bank when I was 32.
Was it difficult to start a bank at that time?
It was not easy, but we had great community support. When you started a bank then, it wasn't a matter of that you had to have a lot of cash. You had to have support from the citizens. I think they required us to have a pledge of $250,000 from at least 200 different individuals. The reason for that, Tom, was that when you opened that door, they being the regulatory people, wanted 200 people in the community to be interested and know, oh yeah, that's the new bank in town.
Well, in the middle of the 1960s, 250,000, 200 people, that's a lot of money.
We got everything from pledges of $10,000 to $10.
Okay.
So it was a variety. We liked the 10,000 because it added up quicker.
I'm going to talk with Evan in a second, but just to follow up on this. So you unlocked the door the first day.
That's right.
And you're thinking?
That was January 3rd, 1966.
Okay. And you're thinking, as you opened that door?
Well, what I was thinking earlier that day, as I was putting a suit, a coat and tie on, that, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this every day.
And you were used to that at that time.
Right. Yeah, now, look where we are now. Look at that.
We come clear around, haven't we?
Yes.
The first winter, 1966.
Well, let me tell you about the first customer we had.
All right.
We were in the back room of Joe Ewing's grocery store.
Which was basically in this location.
Right here. And Pearl Pongas, who I kind of knew, came to the door, opened the door, and looked inside and looked at me at age 32. And she says, "Is this a bank?" So that was our first customer, and she opened an account with us, and bless her soul, that was good. I think you're probably referring to the fact that two things that we had that the banks downtown did not have. One was a drive-up, and number two was parking.
Right.
And so I immediately put a drive-up window in, and then we had a gravel parking lot. And it came to my attention after a skiff of soda one morning, about 10 o'clock in the morning, when one of our customers came in And he said, well, I can tell from the tracks in the snow that I'm the very first customer. So I made sure in the future that if we had a skiff of snow, that I took my car and ran in and out of every parking slot.
I've got to talk with you for a second about your wife, Suzanne, who also started in the banking business with you, but didn't last too long.
No, she was teaching school, and I said to her one day, I said, this was during the summer, I said, you really should learn a little bit about the banking business, and we had a pretty good babysitter, and so I said, you come in and you work as a teller. Well, the problem with Suzanne, she knew everybody in town, she visited with everybody in town, and then when she was $5 short at the end, she'd go to her purse and take it out of it. So she didn't last very long.
Didn't work out very well.
But she was a great lady and led First Federal, and I've told this story many times that probably after we had been established 15 years or 20 years, she was watching the Today Show, and on there they said, in 10 years there's only going to be 4 banks left. And she called me at the office, and she hardly ever did that. She says, I just heard this on the television, that in 10 years there's only going to be 4 banks left. She says, who is the other 3?
What a great line.
Yeah.
What a great line. She was, as you said, she was a great lady. She was always present at all of First Federal events, and very gracious.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me ask you both, let me start with Dick, but let me ask you about the people that you have assembled here at First Federal. It takes more than just one person to be a bank.
At the beginning, one person was.
I understand. I understand that.
No, we hired Margaret Wisely as assistant when we opened, and she and I did the banking for several months. She was a top-notch person. Was very fortunate in selecting her at the beginning, and then ever since then, we've always tried to get people that we thought would fit into our culture, and because we built this bank over the years on service, second to none, and products second to none, and we wanted to continue that. And we have 150 total First Federal family members now. We don't like to call them employees. They're First Federal family members because we started out as a family, and we continue. And we've always gotten, tried to get top-notch people. Just like when we acquired Evan. Evan left us and went someplace else, and when we were looking for somebody to come in, Jim Snyder said to me, what about Evan Gottschalk? And so I called Evan that evening. Oh no, he says, I just took a job at Winnemac, and I just started, and I said, well, if you change your mind, let me know. Well, the next night he called me. So,
As good fortune would have it.
so, and we've, in management, we've always set the bar really high. Because if you don't have the bar set high, you're not going to get the achievement that you're looking for. And we've done that for 50 years.
First Federal founded in Rochester, Indiana. Your first branch was in Winnemac, and you've expanded to other branches since then.
Yes, from Winnemac we went to Bremen, and then we went to Plymouth. We were doing quite a bit of business in mortgage lending in Plymouth, and at the loan closings, quite often the realtor would say, why don't you open a branch in Plymouth? And so we did, and it is our largest branch and highest production. The community has really supported it. Larry Falstich has been our manager and president there ever since we founded that. We hired him right out of college, and so he's been with us ever since. And that really adds some stability to any branch or any business as far as that goes. Then we went to Elkhart, because we felt that there was a need there. And all of these locations have been very successful. Our last one, which we established about 7 or 8 years ago, is in Mishawaka. And it happens to be LEED certified, and it's a green branch. I think it's the only green branch in the state of Indiana, bank branch, I should say. And it is doing very well.
When we first started the First Federal program on WROI, we talked, it seemed like each Friday, about the mortgage market and about how home prices continued to increase. And then we ran into that bump in the road called 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And now, since that time, prices have come back, but regulations, as you suggest, are still there. I guess where I'm trying to go with this is the mortgage market for First Federal still remains solid and strong today.
Oh, yeah. The mortgage market is like milk and bread and butter. I mean, they're essentials.
Yes.
Almost every family will own a home, or their ambition is to own a home. And for a long time, up until 2008, it was a great investment. And that was probably the largest investment that most families had was their home.
Sure.
And they paid into it for 20 years, and it's like an annuity. It's done. But that's the real estate values went down, as you already mentioned, but they're coming back for several reasons. One, the economy is good, unemployment is good, and there's a different mindset out there that. For a while, some of the younger people, first of all, the ones that are graduating from college, a lot of them had trouble finding a job. So they went back and lived with mom and dad. Well, they're not going to buy a house. Well, that's turning around now.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Final thoughts?
Thank you, Tom. I'd just like to thank the people out there that have supported First Federal over the years, starting with Pearl.
That's right.
And bless her soul, is this a bank? She said. Yeah, it is. So every community we've been in has been very supportive, or we wouldn't be as successful as we have been. And but again, we concentrate on people, product, service. I've closed a lot of loans on the kitchen table. I've written CDs on the kitchen table, and so you got to give the service better than your competitor.
I appreciate you inviting me today. I've been doing this program for 25 years. Maybe 26. Now Santa Claus has been with us 25 years. That's this was kind of his little thing to come in here today. So recently, about 30 days ago, I was diagnosed with ALS, and that is I didn't have that on my bucket list, but yeah, I'm 86 years old. I've had a great life and lots of things going on. So. I just wanted to talk a little bit today about First Federal and WROI. We started these with Tom Baer when I was doing live commercials, and then after I read the commercial, then Tom and I would visit a little bit about their various things, and so it went from 5 minutes to 15 minutes and up to 30 minutes. And
then a radio show was born.
yeah, that's right. And Dina Gottschalk was one of the original. She started writing the script and came up with the format. And so it's been a fun thing. I figured up that I've had probably about 1,200 guests. We've had a lot of fun. The purpose of the program is, my purpose has always been to bring local information to people, to honor people, to recognize people, and have a special guest every Friday. We pretty much have done that. We've had a couple times Tanner and I kind of had to fly by the seat of our pants. And I would interview him and he would interview me. So it's been a fun ride.
It's a great history of the show. And is it hard to find guests all those weeks in a row? That's a neat thing to recognize.
You'd be surprised the number of people call in would like to be a guest. They want to promote something. They want to promote the Boy Scouts or the 4-H or things like that. So that makes it easy. And Tanner and Dina Gottschalk handle that. And to answer your question, no, it's not difficult at all.
Some of my favorite shows listening were when you had students on and you get a chance to interview students from our local high schools for various reasons.
Yes, quite often it was connected with the FFA, of course, in all the high schools in our area. The FFA is really a strong and a powerful organization, and along with 4-H and the Boy Scouts. But anyway, it's been a great ride. I want to thank everybody out there that has supported First Federal over the years. We've always tried to be good neighbors and good citizens. And one thing that we always talk about is leave it better than you found it. And Suzanne, my wife, was a great proponent of that. And I've had the foundation on several times, and one of the times we had Brian Johnson on was when he was promoting preschool scholarships. And when I left from here, I went home. I always knew I had at least one listener because Suzanne always listened. And as I walked in the kitchen, she says, "We're going to give money to that." Because she was a teacher and knew a little bit about that. But thanks to everyone, and thanks to Tanner and Evan and Paul and for the filling in over the last few weeks. Appreciate that.
Well, it's a real honor. And one more question for you, Dick. What's something you're the most proud of, if you could say something, for the bank?
Our employees. Our employees are great. We have 150 now in 6 different locations, but here in Rochester we have about 70, maybe 75, and they should be good because we handpicked them. But that's what makes our bank different.
Great words from Dick there throughout that. Definitely describes Dick, who he was, and everything he loved doing in the community.
It's fun hearing about the origins of the radio show and how he liked to honor people in the community with having him as a special guest. And boy, it's our honor this morning to have Dick as a special guest again and hear about his childhood and the start of the bank.
Yeah, lots of great things, and you know, it amazes me all those years later, he still remembered Pearl walking in and saying, "Is this a bank?"
I love that story.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story. It was the first time I had ever heard it. I wasn't a part of the interview that he did with Tom there, you and Tom.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, he did a lot of great things. He welcomed me when I took over for Tom. I wasn't prepared for it, but
right.
You know, the first thing he said when he met me the first time, "You need a haircut." So I went and got a haircut.
Oh, that's great.
So.
Well, he had a way of connecting with everybody, which we talked a little bit about this week, and impacted so many people, including all of us here in the studio. And it was a real pleasure to be able to share those interviews this morning with everybody, and I hope you enjoyed it. And it's our tribute to you, Dick.
Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.